Look, I know this is going to sound cruel. Maybe it even is. But before you judge me, understand this. There was something about that girl, Evelyn, that just got under your skin. She honestly believed she was divine. And I don't mean that metaphorically. She'd introduce herself saying, "My name's Evelyn because I'm heaven sent."
And she'd smile. This syrupy, fake, saccharine grin that made your stomach twist, like you could feel your teeth rotting just from looking at her. Everything she did felt stolen from some old cartoon. The fluttering hands, the sing-song voice, that squeaky pitch she thought made her seem cute. You know how people tell you to be kind to folks like that? I tried. God knows I tried. But she made it impossible.
So yeah, we messed with her. A lot. And no, it wasn't because she was in a wheelchair. Let's make that perfectly clear. I don't have a problem with people in wheelchairs. Just with Evelyn. And you would too, if you'd met her. Everyone felt the same way. She didn't even know where babies came from. I'm not kidding. Once at lunch, someone joked about having Chris Evans' babies, and she said, "How would the baby be his?" Dead serious. We had to explain it to her like she was 5. And when we asked what she thought before, she said, quote, "When a mommy makes a very special wish and sends it to God, he cuts a piece of heaven into a baby shape and sends it down to her to be loved forever." I swear, that was the dumbest thing I've ever heard in my entire life. So yeah, I said something that made everyone at the table lose it. I told her maybe her mom was lying to her because she didn't want to admit what she actually did for a living. Everyone cracked up because the idea of Mrs. Caldwell, the school's frumpiest old cat lady, doing anything remotely adult was too much. Evelyn started crying, doing that weird pouty thing with her lips. I doubt she even knew what I meant, just that it was bad. I think she wanted to storm off, but let's just say she couldn't go far. And yeah, I pointed that out too. The table erupted. And before you start judging me again, no, I wasn't mocking her disability. It was just too easy.
But that day changed things. From then on, everyone decided I was the Evelyn watchdog. Anytime she did something weird, everyone looked at me, waiting for a reaction, like I was supposed to make a joke about it. And if I didn't, they'd be disappointed. When I did, though, instant fame. My jokes became Evelyn quotes of the week, everyone repeating them in the halls, laughing. And I'll admit, it felt good. Too good. Did it ever go too far? Probably. But that's not my fault. All she had to do was act normal.
Evelyn was homeschooled her whole life until 7th grade, which probably explained a lot. She wasn't stupid, just unworldly. Like she'd missed the entire process of learning how to be a normal person. And yet she carried herself like she was better than everyone, like the world was lucky to have her in it. She was always humming something. Pop songs, Disney melodies, sometimes random Japanese lyrics she didn't even understand. Her voice was high and thin, like a bird trapped behind glass. She thought it was beautiful. She thought she was beautiful. She wore these oversized sweaters every day, covered in glittery cats and pastel patterns that made her look like a walking sticker book. And whenever we watched a movie in class, she'd laugh way too loud, this long, wheezing laugh that made everyone stare, and then sob uncontrollably if something even mildly sad happened. It was exhausting just being near her. And she refused to do anything outside her comfort zone. No scary stories, no unfamiliar food, no new games. She rejected anything that didn't fit into her soft, childish bubble. So yeah, I told myself she deserved what we did to her. But deep down, even then, I knew that wasn't really true. She didn't deserve what I did that last day.
Before I met Evelyn, I thought her mom, Mrs. Caldwell, was just one of those overprotective teachers who treated her students like they were fragile china. After a few months, though, I realized she was something else entirely. She'd only allowed Evelyn to attend public school because she was her homeroom teacher. That way, she could hover around her daughter all day, pretending to be supportive. But really, she just couldn't let go. Mrs. Caldwell was always there. She'd pop into class every hour with some excuse, bringing a forgotten pencil case, checking on an assignment, refilling her daughter's water bottle. Evelyn would light up every time she saw her. "Mommy," she'd squeal, waving her hand like a little kid. It was pathetic. She'd beg her mom to stay longer each time, and the worst part was that Mrs. Caldwell always did. At lunch, while the rest of us sat in our groups, laughing or pretending to be cool, Evelyn sat with her mom every single day. Sometimes I caught her feeding her daughter like a toddler, dabbing crumbs from her chin. It was the most embarrassing thing I'd ever seen. Mrs. Caldwell never let her join recess or field trips. She said Evelyn's condition made those things too dangerous. One day, during a French class project, I decided to mess with her again. I invited her to a party in the woods that didn't exist. I told her there'd be music, snacks, everything she liked. She smiled like she thought I was serious and said, "I can't go if it's in the woods, silly. Mommy doesn't let me outside." She said it like it was completely normal. That threw me off. I laughed at first, but then I asked why. And her answer still sits with me. She said, "Mommy says I get lost too easily. I can only go outside for a few seconds, and only when she's holding my hand." I remember staring at her, not sure if she was joking. "It's not like you can run away," I said, trying to make light of it. Evelyn's smile faded. "I can run," she said. Then she moved her legs slightly, and I heard a metallic clink. That was the first time I noticed the chains. Small, dull ones, looped loosely around her ankles, half hidden by her socks. My stomach dropped. "Why are you chained like that? Are you under house arrest or something?" I asked, half laughing, half horrified. Evelyn just shook her head. "Mommy doesn't want me to get lost," she said softly. "She's the only one with the key." The French teacher noticed Evelyn crying and sent me to the principal again. But this time, I wasn't trying to be funny. I was scared. When I told my friends what I'd seen, they said I must have misunderstood. Some said maybe Evelyn had fits or something, that it was for her safety. That made sense, sort of. But it didn't sit right. That clinking sound, the way she'd said, "Mommy doesn't want me to get lost," like she'd repeated it her whole life. That was the first time I started to feel something other than annoyance toward Evelyn. Something colder. Pity. After that day, I couldn't stop thinking about the chains. I kept hearing that metallic clink in my head over and over again. Whenever Evelyn passed me in the hall, I found myself staring at her ankles, looking for a flash of silver beneath those ugly glittered cat sweaters. I told myself I didn't care, that it wasn't my problem, but the truth was, I couldn't get it out of my mind. She said her mom was the only one with the key, and Mrs. Caldwell, she always had this ridiculous lanyard around her neck, decorated with little white wings. I never thought twice about it before. Now, it made me feel sick. I started noticing other things too. How Evelyn always sat stiffly in her chair, how her hands trembled whenever her mom entered the room, how she flinched whenever someone slammed a locker door too hard. There was something wrong in that house.
And the more I paid attention, the more I realized everyone knew something was off. They just didn't care enough to think about it.
I tried to talk to her a few times after that, quietly, when no one else was around. I'd ask her about her life, her mom, what she did after school. She'd answer with this sweet, rehearsed politeness that made it hard to tell where the lie ended and where she actually began. Her favorite movie was The Little Mermaid. She'd never been to summer camp. Her favorite day of the week was Sunday, church day. She hated onions and wanted to be a vegetarian, but Mommy said she needed more protein. She wanted to be a veterinarian someday.
All normal answers. But it was the way she said mommy, always with this quiet, fearful reverence that made my stomach tighten. She told me her mom only took off the shackles when they were inside the house, after all the windows and doors were closed and locked. That's also when Mrs. Caldwell removed the bar that locked Evelyn into her chair, a heavy metal brace that went across her waist and snapped into place with a click. Evelyn said it was for safety. I realized that the sweaters, those ridiculous cat sweaters everyone laughed at, were hiding that bar the whole time.
Her mother didn't want anyone to see. I asked once if she ever thought about running away. It just slipped out. I hadn't meant to say it, but the words came before I could stop them. Evelyn looked shocked, like I'd suggested something unholy. "Of course not," she whispered. "I love my mommy. Where would I even go?" Then she shuddered, a small, involuntary tremor that went from her shoulders to her fingertips. It wasn't cold that day.
That shudder made something inside me snap. I started shouting at her, asking why she never tried to be normal, why she always acted like such a baby, why she let herself be treated like some pet. She started crying, saying she didn't understand. I told her she was a coward, a scared, pathetic little girl who would never be free because she didn't want to be. The teacher heard the noise and sent me to the principal's office again, third time that year. But this time, I didn't feel clever about it.
I felt angry at her, at myself, at that stupid clinking sound that wouldn't leave my head. It was spring by then, snow melting, air turning soft and cold. Mr. Halden, our science teacher, was the kind of guy who lived for those first warm days. He always took the class outside to study seasonal changes. It was his tradition. When he announced it, the room buzzed with relief. Everyone was excited to finally get out after months of winter. Everyone except Evelyn. Her face went pale.
I saw her mouth something under her breath. "I can't." Mr. Halden didn't hear her. He just kept going, all cheerful and oblivious, leading us out the doors toward the field behind the school. That's when I saw the look on her face, the kind of fear that goes beyond phobia. It was like she was forbidden from touching sunlight. I stopped beside her chair. "It's a perfect day," I told her. "You'll love it." "I'm not allowed," she whispered, voice shaking. "You want to be a baby forever?" I said. "Come on, you've never broken a single rule in your life. Live a little." For a long moment, she didn't move. Then, slowly, she nodded.
Evelyn followed me hesitantly down the hall toward the back doors of the school. The sunlight spilled across the tiles like gold, and for a moment I thought she might change her mind, but she didn't. The wheels of her chair squeaked as we crossed the threshold. Outside, the air was sharp and full of melting snow. The sky was pale blue, with threads of cloud drifting like torn silk. She blinked rapidly, her eyes watering in the brightness. "It's cold," she whispered. "Yeah, that happens when you stay outside for more than 10 seconds.
She smiled faintly, like she was trying to remember how to enjoy something new. I think I like the cold. We caught up with the rest of the science class near the trees behind the school. Mr. Holden was already lecturing about moss and leaf buds, waving a twig like a conductor's baton. Evelyn oscillated between excitement and terror. Her hands trembled as she touched the bark of a tree for the first time, running her fingers over it like it was some sacred relic. My friends stood a few yards away, laughing at her. Normally, I would have joined in, but this time, I didn't, because I had something bigger planned. When Mr. Holden split us into pairs, I volunteered to go with Evelyn. My friends exchanged knowing looks. They followed at a distance, smirking, waiting for whatever I was about to do. I pushed Evelyn's chair up a small slope behind the school, where the ground was still damp with thawing ice. The wheels got stuck a few times, but I kept going. She laughed nervously, thinking this was just another one of my jokes. Then I stopped. Her voice trembled. "What are you doing?" I reached into my pocket and pulled out a small silver key, the one with the little white wings. Everyone knew Mrs. Caldwell left her lanyard on her desk during homeroom. It hadn't been hard to take the key when no one was looking. "I'm setting you free," I said. Her face drained of color. "No," she whispered. "Please don't." But I was already leaning down, unlocking the shackles at her ankles. The metal clinked softly, and for the first time, her feet touched the ground unrestrained. Then I unlatched the metal bar across her waist.
Evelyn started screaming, thrashing, begging me to stop. But I thought I was doing the right thing, teaching her to be independent, teaching her to live. The bar snapped free. And then everything went wrong. Evelyn stood up slowly, her hands shaking. For a heartbeat, she smiled, wide-eyed, trembling. Then her feet lifted off the ground. Just a few inches at first, then a foot, 2. Her arms flailed wildly as she rose higher, her shoes spinning in the air. "Help me!" she shrieked. "Please!" Her voice echoed across the field. My friends laughed at first. They thought it was some kind of trick, but laughter turned to screams when she kept rising. 6 feet, 12, 30. Her hair whipped around her face as she clawed at the empty air, trying to grab hold of something, anything. I reached out, but she was already out of reach. The sound she made wasn't human. It was pure terror, raw and endless, until it faded into the wind. She kept rising, the glitter of her pink sweater flashing against the bright sky, smaller and smaller, until she was just a glint. And then, nothing. Just empty sky. Mr. Holden came running, shouting, asking what had happened. None of us could speak. We all just stood there, pointing upward. By then, there was nothing left to point at, just the endless blue, stretching forever. But I never stopped seeing her up there. Every time I look at the clouds now, I swear I can still see something moving between them. Something wearing pink,